Alright guys, Tuesday, April 7th, just coming up to around 12 noon or so. Tush coming at you. Hopefully everybody's making the best of the current situation. We're out in the garage today, spending a little time with the TR250 project. I was out here yesterday just doing some cleaning and organizing, moving the bike out. I think we'll leave it outside under cover for a bit. Cleaned the toolbox up yesterday, did a little bit of organization, and that's pretty much about it. I've got jacks and jack stands standing by for less whenever we pick up that project, his 76 TR6 restoration project. So we might be going up there today. We'll see how, again, this is on Les's schedule, so we'll see how Les feels about going up there and putting the car up on jack stands today so we can start doing things like taking the bumpers off. The car's looking not too bad actually. Just put the passenger side rear fender on yesterday. Still needs to be epoxy primed, as does the bonnet. We'll get to that in a minute. I did want to actually talk a little bit about my previous video, which was the Ghost Stripe Showdown. I thought some of you might be interested in the tabulation of all the comments or votes on the video. So you can see this. It's at a total of 84 commenters on my video. 52 are directly related to the stripe. So here's the breakdown. So no stripe, 2 people total. Original stripe, 1 person. So fourth left, which was the fourth from the left, or fourth, which was all the way to the left, sorry, which was pretty much my choice. This was the ghostiest of the 4 panels. Had the least amount of satin pearl in the panel. Got the most votes at 31, so pretty overwhelmingly a winner. I don't know if I swayed that vote at all or not, but anyway, 31 people like that panel the best. Third from left, 8 people, so that was the second choice winner, or runner-up I guess you can call it. Nobody liked the second panel in, which was the full silver metallic. That's the one that I didn't like from the get-go. I thought I was going to like this one the best actually when I first sprayed it out, and then it turned out that it's way too much metallic and there just doesn't go with the car at all. Some of you are arguing that the other one doesn't go with the car at all either, but hey, my car. Anyway, from the first to the right, which was the full-on stripe, which had the full 1/8 of a teaspoon of satin pearl in it, got 7 votes, so pretty close to second. And then there was 3 comments that said they wanted it to go even lighter than the fourth, the one that all the way to the left, the lightest one. There's 3 that actually wanted it a little bit lighter. And I think I had mentioned in my comments that I could probably see it going a little bit lighter as well. Now, having said that, I still have to actually decide, although like I'd mentioned, the fourth panel, which got the overwhelming majority of comments and votes, is my favorite so far. I still have to execute that when I go to actually paint this bonnet. Not only execute the stripe across the bonnet, but that stripe actually comes down the side here of the fenders. Some of you were questioning, well, how does the stripe go on this car? And I'd mentioned it in one of my earlier videos, but some people may have not watched that. So the bonnet stripe on the TR250 goes across the bonnet. So it actually comes down the fenders. And I'm going to take you over to this fender here in a second. One of the original fenders that still has the remnants of the stripe on it. So the bonnet stripe goes all the way down the side of the fenders, below the marker light, all the way across and down below the other marker light. So it's I call it a Bumblebee Stripe. It goes this way. It does not go like a traditional racing stripe this way up across the bonnet like I have on my 60 TR3 with that black stripe. Here's an original fender, and you can see how that stripe, so if you can imagine, that's where the marker light is. The stripe comes down below it and finishes down here below on the fender. So that's what the original stripe looks like. So, and it's a full-on painted stripe on the original TR250s. Alright, so that's the roundup on the Ghost Stripe. So we'll put that to bed for now until we get to a point where we need to bring it up again once we get to painting this actual bonnet, which will be in the future sometime. I do have quite a bit of time to work on this car, although probably like many of us, we're all kind of watching our funds at the moment. I know I am, so I'm a little bit loath to spend a ton of cash on this product, and I still have to buy things like paint. The paint's expensive for this car. Paint, primer, it all adds up. We're probably talking at least $1,000 to get the primers and paint that I'm looking for to paint this car with, maybe more. So yeah, I'm not sure how far we'll be able to get on this project, but we'll continue on until we can't. There's other things to do as well. I mean, I've got, you know, bins full of parts that need to be, in some cases, sandblasted and prepped and painted. So if we get away from working on the body, I'm sure I can busy myself with other work that's within those bins. I also have other cars. I do need to get the Alfa Romeo home at some point to do a little work on the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa I don't think will fit in my covered trailer, so that's going to entail the use of Les's regular flatbed trailer to get that home. So we're thinking about bringing that home. We have enough space in the garage to do that with the bike outside. So we may do that in the near future once we run out of options for this car. But we're going to continue on working on this car for the moment, at least. And have a little discussion on this area over here. Alright, so that's a bit of a glaring gap there, and I was bound and determined not to fix it and just live with it and just move on with the project. Gap's good on this side, as it should be. Yeah, it's not bad all the way up. The beading interferes a little bit with it on the right hand side, but the gap's pretty consistent all the way up on this side. It's actually not bad on this side all the way up until we start getting down to this area here, and that gets really wide. I've got the front valence bolted. Most of the fasteners are bolted up to the front at the bottom there. It's a little bit of a wider gap than I'd want. I could probably work on that a little bit, but for the most part that's going to be where it's going to be. So that leaves this big ugly wide gap at the front here that's staring me in the face every time I walk by the front of this car. This did have a lot of work done on it. If you go back in my previous videos, there was a patch that was put in here, in this area here, and that's why we've got a little bit of filler over it. The front edge of this actually had been rolled under, so I'm not exactly sure whether somebody just nosed this car in and damaged the eyebrow. But anyway, I've got this big gap on this side to contend with. So I think I'm going to break down. I said that I wasn't going to fix it in my own mind, but I don't think I can live with that. So I think we're going to break down and break out the cutting wheel. We'll get the welder out. So what we'll do is we'll cut this panel up to about this area where the gap seems to get a little bit more normal. We'll widen it out. We'll put a piece in there, weld that back in, fix the nose, flange piece, and grind that down, and that should look a whole lot better, and it should make me a whole lot happier. Just when you thought the welding was done on this car, it's never done. Alright, I think we're going to break down and do that. Here we go. Alright guys, we got the Dremel out, the thin blade on it, and we're just going to zip this from this line all the way down to the nose, and we'll split that apart. We'll make a few measurements, put it back on the car, adjust it, then weld up the gap. We'll probably have to put a little piece of metal in there, down the bottom at least, and then we'll weld her back up and grind her down, see how we did. Alright guys, so there's our cut. I'm just going to clean it up with a little bit of a grinding wheel just along the edge here. I think we'll put a tack in it in the middle here, and we'll just put it up for a quick test fit. And if that works out, then we'll stitch it back up and grind it down. Probably going to be somewhere around there. Alright guys, I think it's a little dark dark, but you can just see that I've tacked a little piece there in the nose. And it's looking pretty good as far as the gap is concerned. I don't know if you can see that or not. On this side, that looks much, much better than it did. If I take a look on this side, pretty good here as well. So I think I can live with that much better than I could before. So I think what we'll do is we'll finish welding that seam up, clean this up here, finish our welding up here, and we'll grind that down. We'll come back for a last look at it. Got to finish underneath here as well. I did make a flange. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I did actually wrap a flange around here. So we'll need to finish this off, probably shape that a little bit better, and then need a little piece put in here. But not too bad as a first attempt. So we'll continue on. Yeah, as they say, it's all over but the grinding. So we'll cut the grinder out. We'll start with the 4.5 inch grinder, and then we'll finish it up with the angle die grinder, smoothing it out a little bit. There you go. We'll be back. Alright guys, just wanted to give you a quick underside view of that repair before we flip it over, and I'll show you the finished side. So I did some grinding down in below here, so that looks a little bit better. So obviously we need to epoxy prime that area. Looks pretty similar to this area over here, which is good. So we'll flip it over and I'll let you have a final look at that repair, and we'll pop it on the car. Alright guys, and here's that repair from the top side. Pretty invisible, I would say. Got a little tiny dent here. You need to put a bit of filler back in. Other than that, it looks pretty good. So let's put it back on the car one last time before we take it off, and do a little tiny little body work there on that little dent, and then we'll get it ready for epoxy. Alright guys, final update on the bonnet. So here is the driver's side gap. Pretty good. And our new and improved passenger side gap. That's looking pretty good. So we'll call it a success. And obviously needs a little bit more of adjustment, but that's looking pretty good. Alright, let's take it back off the car, put it on the stands, get her sanded down to 220, and get it ready for epoxy.